This video is dedicated to James Humphreys. James, thank you. Taborax hopes Demise versus Golos Tireless Pilgrim. We've got a lot of apostles there with the lands to go with it. So let's just go for Shadowborn Apostle. I think we'll have a look at a draw or two before we go for Skull Clamp. Maybe we'll go for Skull Clamp on turn 2, I don't know. See what we draw first. I might just get aggressive with Skull Clamp. And speaking of aggressive, there's a Mana Vault, and Yawgmoth's Will kind of makes up our decision for us. Let's go for a black mana with Prismatic Vista. And then we'll play the Skull Clamp. Might as well poke our opponent for 1. Don't think there's any real danger of us losing our creature, and they could get rid of it in response to the Clamp anyway, so like I said, might as well hit them for 1. We'll go for the Clamp to draw a couple and clear a couple of lands off the top. So that means that we can get out our Taborax in a turn or 2. And we're likely seeing Golos here. And there he is, going for the Urborg. So it's likely that they'll want to lose their Golos at some point and go for Cabal Coffers. We've got an Arcane Signet there, so let's play another land. Don't have to crack it. We can save landfall for Bloodghast, which is why these are in here. Bloodghast and Skull Clamp go very nicely together. Go for Arcane Signet, another Apostle, and let's draw again. Alright, apparently they had Cabal Coffers in hand, that's why they went for the Urborg. They've still only got 3 colours though. And there is a Vindicate onto our Skull Clamp, so now we're just going to have to go in for our Commander. And of course there's a Tutor as well. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to go for our Commander and Apostles and set up Yawgmoth's Will at some point. Then they poke us for 3. We get into another Apostle. So let's play our Commander here. Get the expensive play out of the way. And then play a couple of Apostles, and we can play 3 Apostles. We've only got 2 at the moment, but we can play 3 Apostles out of the bin when we play a land next turn. So it's Yawgmoth's Will, play the 2 Apostles, play 1 out of our hand. That will leave us with 5. So yeah, probably best saving the Yawgmoth's Will play for when we can actually crack the Apostles for the Demon. Probably going in for Grizzlebrand. Anyway, our opponent gets a step closer to their 5 colours, making 5 mana with Cabal Coffers. And that smells like a Primeval Titan. Yep. And they've gone for Volrath's Stronghold and Gaia's Cradle. So it might be they have Field of the Dead in hand. Do we try and draw some cards with the Apostles here? I think we're just setting up the next turn or 2. So let's just let that through. Okay, Night's Whisper loses us some more life. Let's go for an Apostle, another one. We'll draw with the Night's Whisper and get into Secret Salvage. That could be good if we manage to make it to later on in the game. Yeah, we don't have lifelink on our Taborax yet, do we? It needs the 5+ counters on it, so we can block with all 4 of those just for the sake of buffing this and drawing cards. Then it's 3 mana into Yawgmoth's Will, and we can only replay 4 of them when we drop a land, so yeah, just something to consider. Might as well swing in with our Commander because we're not going to block with it. Yep, there you go, they had Field in hand. It's always suspicious if they're not going to tutor for Field of the Dead with Primeval Titan, then you assume that they've got it in hand. It's usually a safe bet. Then swinging in with Prime Time and Golos, which will allow them to tutor for a couple of lands straight into play. And we'll trigger Field when they do that. And they've gone for a fetch in Fabled Passage and Valakut. They'll need a means of making all their lands into mountains before Valakut is relevant, but I'm sure it's not something they'll struggle with. Okay, so we need 3 for Yawgmoth, or Yawgmoth's Will, and then 1 to play a couple of Apostles, then pay 1 to sacrifice them all for Griselbrand, so I don't think we're going to block here. Okay, and then Oko, Thief of Crowns. Yeah, a total imbalance of power levels of these decks here. I don't think there's any shame in losing to this very potent Golos deck, because obviously this isn't a very powerful 1v1 deck. This is just a bit of fun, as I'm sure you're all aware. So we lose lifelink on our Taborax because we're not going to get a bunch of plus counters on there. Let's go for Yawgmoth's Will. We might as well grab the Skull Clamp out of the bin as well. Actually, could have played the Prismatic Vista out of the bin as well. Don't often play Yawgmoth's Will. So there we go. Get the Clamp back into play, and we'll have to hold up the black mana because it does cost black mana to sacrifice these. And we'll have to leave it there, I think. Just have to hope our opponent doesn't have any instant speed removal. Now, our opponent does have their 5 colours, so I dare say they go for an activation with Golos here. Might be that they just have a big spell in hand, cracking the Fabled Passage. Probably go for a white mana here, I would think. Yep, they go for a Snow Plains. And trying their luck with Golos, seeing what they can get off the top. There's a Toxic Deluge. Yeah, they could go for that, I suppose, but then they could set up getting the Primeval Titan back with Volrath Stronghold, dump a bunch of life into Toxic Deluge, so that they wipe out whatever demon we tutor for. Anyway, they've got a Vamp tutor as well. Okay, and after a long while, our opponent decided to play the Toxic Deluge, so their plan here is probably forcing us to go for a demon, and then they can target it with Oko. I did take the means of dealing with Planeswalkers out of the deck in, it wasn't Heroic Intervention, it was the adventure card that I forget the name of. But at the same time, like I've said, it's not exactly a competitive list that we've built here, is it? So let's go for Shadowborn Apostle. I'm not going to go for Griselbrand here because I need the lifelink, although we probably lost here already anyway. Reaver Demon, maybe we should put Reaver Demon in the deck because we could wipe out our opponent's board here. Okay, eventually allowing us to search for something. We've got Harvester of Souls, which we might be able to make use of later on, so let's just go for Lord of the Void. And they can turn that into a 3/3 if they want to. Alright, and eventually deciding to go for the Vampiric Tutor. And then Baleful Strix to draw what they tutored for. And then a new one that I haven't seen played much, Chromatic Orrery. And they decided to shuffle their library here, so I'm guessing they're going to go in for Golos off of the Gaia's Cradle. And now what have we got? Hour of Promise to search for some more lands, Emrakul, the Promised End, and a fetch. They go for the Hour of Promise. And then it's another activation on Golos, but they just get some lands off the top this time. Oh, actually, they get Duretti, Ingenious Iconoclast as well. And deciding to make a food token with Oko so that the Duretti can sacrifice it and destroy the Lord of the Void. And then there's Emrakul, so I am perfectly happy to concede there. Our opponent's playing really slow and I don't want to sit here for another half hour waiting for them to finish the game. Yeah, it's Golos doing Golos things. That's just usually how these games go. On to the next one. Okay, let's try again. Another Eldrazi, this time up against Kozilek, Butcher of Truth. I don't have much hope for that hand. We could always get into a tutor for Skull Clamp and... I mean, there's not really much else to draw in this deck. We are on the draw at least, but yeah, there's nothing much to draw other than Shadowborn Apostles, so we'll try that one and keep our fingers crossed. Turn 1 Soul Ring from our opponent into a Mind Stone. We will just play out our Swamp and the Shadowborn Apostle. Then it's a Pristine Talisman as well, so just ramping themselves up to the Eldrazi as you would think. Why don't we go Expedition Map and the Apostle? Then we can consider cracking the Expedition Map. Might just go for our Commander next turn. I don't think they're going to point any removal at the map. And more ramp in the Golem's Eye. Then Sear and Powder. We just get into another land, so let's go for that Commander. And we'll turn in sideways with these two and get some of the only damage that we're likely to get on our opponent this game. Okay, and it's Ugin, the Ineffable. They decide to make a Spirit. We can at least swing in over there, but they can destroy one of our creatures whenever they want. Now a Kuldotha Forge Master. They've got Ghost Quarter and Urza's Power Plant. I think we might have to go for Wasteland on the Ghost Quarter before we go for Cabal Coffers. So let's go Bloodghast. And then we can go Expedition Map at the end of our opponent's turn. Swing in at Ugin. And they plus the Ugin to make another Spirit. The minus is a -3 on that. So if we swing in over there again, then they're not going to be able to do anything about it. Defense Grid is a really good one. I don't think we're really worried about Defense Grid. Well, Mere Battlesphere is really good with a Kuldotha Forge Master. And a Spirit comes in at us. Don't really care about that. So let's crack the map. Go for the coffers. And then it's a Toxic Deluge. Yeah, could go for Toxic Deluge, I suppose. Do we just save that for when our opponent's commander's in play, though? Does this grab any artifact? Yeah, for an artifact, so they don't necessarily have to go for a creature with that. Let's swing in at the Ugin. I suppose we could always go for Toxic Deluge, where X is 1, just to draw a couple of cards. But I think we just have to try and stem the bleeding at this point. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're only 1 mana away from just getting down their commander next turn. They can search for something with this to get them into their commander, definitely. They've got 0 cards in hand. Maybe we just have to wait. Yeah, I think we have to wait until their commanders come down. So let's go Wasteland onto their Ghost Quarter. Could have done that at the beginning of their turn during the upkeep, because it might be that they go for the Forge Master onto something other than a rock, but I wouldn't have thought it, and we force their hand here at least. But I imagine they're going for Thran Dynamo, something like that here. Oh, and actually I didn't count the static ability on this, did I? So yeah, they can definitely afford their commander already. They went for Akroma's Memorial. Well, that's the haste, so yeah, should have gone for the Toxic Deluge apparently, but our opponent did get off to a really fast start, so again, I don't think there's any shame in losing this one. Okay, Kuldotha Forge Master, they're going for something else here. So not going to take as much damage as I thought we were. Ah, there we go. Blightsteel Colossus, yeah. Coming up against 2 spikier players in a row. So with Annihilator 4, we'll just sacrifice our creatures. And we'll pay some life to see what we were drawn into. Skull Clamp, not bad. Yeah, we were getting into something half decent. But, yeah, like I said, up against some spikier players here. I will try once more, and if I don't have any luck, then I'm just going to have to retire this deck, I think, because bringing some fun, janky deck into the 1v1 rooms of Magic Online is, yeah, you're not going to see much success with a deck like that, as is apparent here. Now, who've we got? It is Tuvasa the Sunlit this time. Don't see much of her nowadays. Thrumming Stone will be really good in the mid to late game, but are we going to get there very quickly before we get steamrolled? Dismember could slow the game down a bit. Let's just keep that. We're on the draw, so it'll take us a card further ahead than our opponent. No fast mana from our opponent to start things off. That's a blessing. Let's get out our first Apostle and keep our fingers crossed that we don't draw into a land next turn. Greater Auramancy from our opponent. We only have one means of targeting enchantments in this deck, so not really all that bothered about interacting with enchantments. That's actually a problem with this deck in general. Yeah, Okay. Well, with that, let me take advantage of the fact that we've just ended that game prematurely. And what is the name of the deck? Taborax. Yeah, let's have a look at that Reaver Demon. I think it might have some text that doesn't... Is it just a Plague Wind on legs? I can't remember. It might have some text on it that stops us using it the way we want to. Yeah, so there's Reaver Demon. When it enters the battlefield, it's if you cast it from your hand. Yeah, I had a feeling there was something like that in there. So, yeah, no one-sided board wipe off of the Apostles for us. I think they could print something like this now. Like, you know, we've got Worm Coil Engine, so a Reaver Demon that is just a Plague Wind with legs, I think is something that we could see printed now, and it would help decks like this. But, yeah, anyway, these decks are never going to be all that competitive. Let's have a look at what demons we've got in the collection, just out of curiosity. Did have Vilis in the deck to start off with, so that's always a consideration. Might actually go for that Overlord of the Void. This was a bit of a pet card, to be honest, so might put that in there in place of that. Oh, there is a 6 mana demon, I think, that gives -2/-2. Yeah, that's the one. When it enters the battlefield, all other creatures -2. Yeah, so it might be worth adding that, I think. In fact, I think we'll put that in instead of Lord of the Void, because Lord of the Void's just too slow, I think, and it's, like I said, it's just in there because I like it, which isn't good enough. And then it'd be nice to be able to use things like Bloodgift Demon for card draw, but it's just way too slow. And we're never going to be able to do anything with stuff like that in 1v1, apparently. Yeah, there's another one in Dread, Kako Demon. Enters the battlefield. If you cast it from your hand, destroy all creatures your opponents control. And tap all creatures you control. I mean, it's probably just to keep the reanimation decks from having an easy target to wipe your opponent's side of the field, so I get why they put that in there. Yeah, it'd be good for decks like this, but it would be obnoxious playing against a reanimation deck that can just sacrifice and reanimate stuff with Merrin every turn, and you can never keep creatures in play. Do we want... What did we look at? Do we want Vilis in here? Yeah, I think I will actually. I'll put Vilis in here as something else to tutor for. The more big stuff you put in, obviously, the more chance you've got of drawing into it. And I just don't think we have time in 1v1 to go for Zathrid Necromancer, so we'll get rid of that and try the deck like this. I will make one more attempt, but I don't think we're fated to get a good game with this deck today. I just clicked on this game because it said power level 6 in the comments, and then I saw who we were playing against and noticed it was Billy Kills, our friend of the channel, patron of the channel. So yeah, let's have a good game against our friend Billy Kills. Might play a multiplayer game with him later on. Let's just... Do we want to try and get something better than that? Nah, let's just keep it, whatever. We are on the play, so we'll go for our turn 1 creature. Didn't say who Kills is playing, actually. It's Obuun, Mull Daya, Ancestor. And they start things off with Wayfarer's Bauble. We get into a land, as we tend to in this deck. So let's play a couple of Apostles, and we'll swing in at our opponent. At least we're getting closer to Coat of Arms being relevant. There's every chance that Coat of Arms buffs our opponent's stuff as well. There's plenty of means of making tokens in Lands Matter, especially in the Naya colours. Put a land from hand to battlefield and flip it if you control 10 or more. And then it is 6 and tap to create an elemental, where X is the number of lands you control. So let's drop a land. Of course, we draw into another one. Get down our commander. We've got enough for the Coat of Arms on turn 5 now, at least. And then we'll offer up a trade to our opponent, which I doubt they'll take. Don't mind paying a life and drawing a card. They crack their Wayfarer's Bauble, get themselves into the colours that they need, so they're on Naya now. 4 cards in hand. Don't know if they've got a land to play with that yet. Okay, Vampiric Tutor. Don't really know what we want with Vampiric Tutor, to be honest. Let's just crack the Vista straight away. Why don't we have a look through the deck quickly? Maybe we just have to go for Necropotence to keep our hand full. Yeah, maybe just go for Necropotence with that. I think Yeah, let's swing him. We could always draw into and play Necropotence if we end up losing a creature here. And again, deciding not to. Yeah, so if they block there, we could have Vampiric Tutored something onto the top and then drawn with our commander and a cleric dying. But yeah, as it stands, we'll just put Necropotence into our hand and then play Coat of Arms next turn. Our opponent probably thinks that's what we've tutored for. Turns out they do have a land with the Budoka Gardener. And it is an Evolving Wilds. I'm sure that Kills has means of playing lands out of the graveyard, so that Evolving Wilds may well be of some use to them. Then a Crop Rotation for more instant speed shenanigans. And it's a bounce land, so that guarantees them a land drop next turn. And now getting into their commander and playing a Fabled Passage, so they'll be able to start throwing some plus counters around, buffing up their commander. This is a human monk, and it stays a human monk. And this one is an elf spirit, just looking at the tribe so that we can try and work out how much things get buffed by. These are humans as well, so they will buff this thing up quite a ways. Anyway, deciding to tap it now for the landfall. And getting another fetch land into play. Each of those is landfall twice, of course. Then cracking the Fabled Passage as well. And their commander's all the way up to a 7/7 at this point. Turning their forest into a 7/7. So do we actually go for... do we go for Necropotence or not? I think we can maybe hold off our opponent with the Coat of Arms. So I think we do still go for the Coat of Arms and Necropotence at the end of the turn being drawn into. It's really slow means of card draw though, isn't it? If we're going for Necropotence, we have to play it next turn, so let's just go for the tutor anyway. Maybe we just buy ourselves some time with the Oubliette. Will that help us? They've only got 2 cards left in hand. Trouble is, we're just pretty much in top deck mode at that point, but our opponent's going to beat us at this point, so let's just go for Oubliette. Play a land, play the Oubliette, and then it's just a case of us hoping that we manage to get into Shadowborn Apostles. We need another 3. Anyway, swing him, hope our opponent doesn't have removal for the Oubliette. And we'll just shuffle things up and get ourselves a swamp now. The Naya colours shouldn't struggle at all with getting rid of an enchantment, but it all depends on if they've managed to draw into it, of course. Getting down Retreat to Kazandu, and that's a means of distributing plus counters around. Only 1 card left in hand, it might be a land to get out with this. There's still 3 lands away from flipping that around. Okay, another land for us, so let's just drop that. Go for the Coat of Arms. Might be that we need more sack outlets in the deck, because if we had a sack outlet we could get rid of these and draw cards. This is up to a 5/4 now, so yeah, they can swing back at us if they want to. We'll just go in at them and encourage them to block. Oh, actually, yeah, we're forcing them to block here. So we do get a card draw. And a plus counter on Taborax, knocking them down to 1. Secret Salvage, that actually works out nicely. And then it's an Enlightened Shooter, so they could have removal for either Coat of Arms or Oubliette. I think they have to go for Coat of Arms at this point. But then again, they need removal for the Taborax as well, so yeah, not sure what they can get with the Enlightened Shooter, really. They need removal for too many things. Can they afford Oblivion Stone? That would be 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to activate. Oblivion Stone would do it. Well, with 1 card in hand, let's see what they tutored for. Alright, with the Enlightened Shooter. Oh, they failed to find with the Enlightened Shooter because they've drawn into Scapeshift. That's a hell of a top deck for our opponent. So let's see what they grab here. They sacrificed 7 lands there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, so that's more than enough to activate Valakut if they've got that in the deck. They'll trigger Field of the Dead as well, but Field won't do it for them. They need Valakut, really. so that they can get rid of our creatures. Alright, well, apparently they don't have Valakut in the deck, so going for a bounce land, say Shock, Rogue's Passage, Kessig Wolf Run. Yeah, you can see the type of thing they're going for, almost like a Voltron build with Obuun, which works nicely for us because we've got the Oubliette in play. Anyway, gaining 2 life from the retreat to Kazandu, so jumping back up to 15. And then they played another land from hand. Oh, I think the Gruul Turf bounced itself, so they played that, and then, yeah, they're using the Gruul Turf as a constant landfall ability. Alright, Dismember is not going to kill off their commander, but it could protect them, or protect us from it a little bit. Yeah, we could make a decent block with it. Let's go for the Secret Salvage. And this will allow us to fill our hand with Shadowborn Apostles. So let's go 1 and 7. That means we'll have 7 cards in hand at the end of the turn because we'll play an Apostle. So we've definitely got 3, 6 and 7. We'll say done. If we had an infinite hand size, we could obviously fill our hand with all of those. Crack the Delta. Go for a land. Play an Apostle. That will buff our other Apostles. And then we'll swing in at them for 14. Not quite getting rid of them thanks to the life gain. But they will go down to commander damage next turn if they don't watch out for our commander. We know one of the cards in their hands are bounce land, don't forget. It is a Farseek, so yeah, that's not going to do it for them, I don't think. They can only make 1 land a turn here with the current board state, so they'll go up to 7 life, but we can swing in for lethal next turn. So the Oubliette was actually a very good shooter for us, I think, because our opponent would have absolutely wailed on us with that commander if it wasn't for the fact that we had some kind of pacifism effect for it. And they definitely could have replayed their commander had we have gone for targeted removal. That's why this is such a powerful card. Alright, get into Urborg. Let's just turn sideways, no reason to drag the game out. We know what's in our opponent's hand. So there we go. Yeah, much more fair matchup there. And all because we were playing against a more casually based deck, same as ours. Yeah, it's much easier to get fun and fair games going when you're actually on the same wavelength as each other. But that's a difficult thing to organise on Magic Online. Just looked out by stumbling across a friend of the channel today, so hopefully you all enjoyed it. Big thank you to Billy Kills for playing this last matchup with me, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.